Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Al.
I have Michelle, and if I pronounce this incorrect, Michele Silva-Dockery joining us today. We have a 45-minute talk. Michelle is uh, caring for caregivers. That's her title. And today, Michelle's going to be speaking about releasing imbalances to enrich your life. And I'm going to just read Michelle's bio. Michelle is trained in mathematics and education, has spent over 20 years teaching secondary math in public schools, retiring in 2017. She was introduced to Reiki and started her energy healing journey in 2018. Knowing she had a calling to find a new way to make a difference, she pursued training in Reiki and spiritual life coaching. Fast forward to today, Michelle is a master Reiki teacher and is also certified in the emotion code and body code, which we will talk about. She recently founded her company, Caring Onward, through which she offers energy healing, transformation, and nurturing support to people dealing. I was just checking to make sure I'm recording. I just had like all of a sudden, okay, I'll continue. I'm starting that paragraph over. I just had like, oh no. Okay. Fast forward to today, Michelle is a master Reiki teacher and is also certified in the emotion code and body code, which we will cover. She recently founded her company, Caring Onward, through which she offers energy healing, transformation, and nurturing support to people dealing with physical and emotional challenges, including those in caregiver roles. Caregivers have a special place in her heart, as she knows firsthand how difficult it is for them to care for themselves. Well, Michelle, welcome. I would like you to introduce yourself, please.
Well, thank you, Al. I'm so glad to be here with these amazing speakers. Um, it's interesting that all these years of teaching, actually only the last 10 years of teaching mathematics, as much as I love math and always will, and connecting with students, I always felt like there was something else, just some other calling. And so I left teaching in 2017. And as you said earlier, um, I guess Reiki, I hear a lot of people say Reiki found me. That's kind of how I feel. Reiki found me and in 2018. And it just started my journey. The intuition just opened up. Um, in 2018, a lot of things were happening that were challenging. So it really helped me through that. Um, and then just last year, I was introduced to first emotion code and then body code, which are pretty much emotion code is within the body code, founded by Dr. Bradley Nelson. And I was a little skeptical at first because of the protocol, and it felt cut and dry to me. And then I started learning about it and practicing it, giving sessions, and the results were so amazing that I was hooked. There was no going back. So, but just a little bit more background. It seemed like all of my life, from childhood on, people were drawn to telling me their story, no matter where, in the bus and the train, and no matter where I was. And I also realized that when people had headaches, I could put my hands on their head and it would go away. And I thought that was fun. Um, the only bad part at the time was I ended up getting the headache. So since then, I've learned a lot and I don't take on people's pain anymore. Um, my life has been both enriched and challenged by living in several countries, several cities, going to 15 schools. And so I developed a need to go within. And I was always a spiritual seeker. And as far as the caregiver part, um, I was a caregiver for many years. My mother developed dementia, and I'm an only child, so I was it for her. And 2018, my husband ended up getting aggressive cancer, so I was a caregiver for him. He's alive and well. He's in remission. um, and I had other family members who were in pretty dire situations. So I discovered the joy of being in the sandwich generation, and I kind of never grew up knowing about that. So that led me to a path of wanting to provide support to other caregivers. So the name Caring Onward was a download. It's kind of a takeoff from carry on, right? Just carry on. And I was trying to figure out what name would be the closest. And Carrying Onward was not taken. It's officially LLC. So that's a little bit of my background.
Okay, thank you for that. I actually have, because when we spoke before, I had a note, and you kind of talked about this a little bit, but I want to go more into this, caring for caregivers. So I had for you to tell me a little bit more about what is a caregiver, and I will tell you why I'm asking, because before I became a caregiver for people who were very sick and dying, there's no way I could understand or appreciate uh, the struggles that that person has and the caregiver has. So I think it's very interesting that you're doing this, and you have this title, and that uh, most people at this summit are caregivers, right? And we burn ourselves out, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to open up for you. What is caregiver? Are there different levels? What do you recommend for caregivers? What are your thoughts
Okay.
about that? Yeah.
Thank you for the question. The first thing I want to say is, when I do give a presentation about caregivers, I I ask the audience how many of them identify themselves as a caregiver, and get a few hands raised. And then I start asking, well, how many of you are coaches or teachers, healthcare providers, um, energy healers, social workers, anyone with a child or children, anyone with a parent, grandparent, you name it. And pretty much all hands are up after that. Um, Now, not to say that everybody that I present to is in my age group. So you may be in your 20s or your teens and you don't really have an idea of what caregiving is like. But yeah, I would say there are different levels. You talk about uh, caregiving to people who are dying or just need a lot of support. That's the very intense caregiver. Those are the kinds that have zero time for themselves. They're on call 24/7. That's kind of where I was for many years. And then there are those, well, take my 20 years of teaching. I consider that caregiving. I really cared deeply about my students. And, my biggest joy was for them to come see me after school. They would tell me their joys, their challenges, their crises. I cared about every single one of them, and that's about 150 students a year. Um, so that's caregiving. There's different levels, and most of the time, people don't realize that they are caregivers. We adopted two beautiful elderly kitties 3.5 years ago. They're at least 10 and came with a lot of trauma. So, and caring to animal companions, that's caregiving. So, yes, there are different levels, but one thing in common to a lot of caregivers is that they struggle with time. They struggle to find time for themselves. They give, and sometimes forget to give back to themselves. They feel guilty. Guilt is an interesting part of caregiver. I've felt it big time. You feel like you're not doing enough. You're feeling like you're not giving them enough time. You feel guilty about taking time for yourself. And it, like you said the other day, it becomes an obligation. You just feel guilty about even not thinking about them all the time. I'm not talking for everybody. This is just my experience. And you really lose your sense of freedom. You're just not free to uh, just enjoy your life fully without always thinking about the other. And it does take a toll on caregivers' physical, emotional, mental health. There is a research out there, which I have not verified, that says about 43% of caregivers end up developing chronic physical issues. And so, and what got me into this is I talk with many people, and a couple recently, especially that really struck me and touched my heart. It was a young couple with 4 kids. She was going through her second year of intense treatment for breast cancer, and they were talking about how that there was just not a whole lot for him. There was not a whole lot of support for the husband who was dealing with the kids and with her illness and his full-time job, and I told them what I was thinking of doing, and they were like, "Oh, bless you, thank you, do it." And in fact, the only organization they found that would give him any reprieve was called Carrying On, and thus carrying onward. I was trying to figure out, the name. So I hope that answers your question. I understand some people have no clue what a caregiver really is. Bless them. At some point in their lives, even if you adopt a kitten, right? You become a caregiver. That kitten just kind of consumes your life for a while. So
I saw a heart fly by from Sadie, so you are connecting with people, and I do find you can hear me well.
yes.
Okay, so I do find that I'm going to ask. I guess I'll say it this way: someone who's a caregiver, no matter what you're doing, if there's a lot of it can wear us down. We said, or you said, and then we have resilience and resistance, but eventually that wears down. And I think you've been in a situation, and what wisdom do you have for someone who's going through this, in terms of helping themselves through it to keep themselves strong enough so they can continue helping that person if they choose to, person or animal, whatever it is.
Um, so the biggest thing, there's an echo on my end. I don't know why. Um, I think it's me. I don't think it's you or anything, and I don't have my phone on. But when I was going through the depth of, I would say, despair, where I did not know. I mean, I would wake up in the morning and I just dreaded the day.
Mm.
I didn't really know what I didn't know. I didn't know what I needed. And then it was through connecting with others, networking, that I accepted support. And it just started with one person, just somebody who can listen, somebody who maybe gives you more objective perspective with a lot of empathy and care. And I think one of the biggest takeaway I got from this person who happened to be a life coach was just 1 degree of shift can just transform your life. Doesn't have to be big steps, doesn't have to be anything, you don't have to meditate for half an hour all of a sudden. You just 1 degree, she taught me 3 by 3. You just 3 times a day, take 3 minutes to just breathe. Or just if you can sit, everybody can take 3 minutes, even if you're in the bathroom, right? So just little things like that. And we have a magnet on the fridge, quote from Winston Churchill, the famous quote of never, never, never give up. Well, it took Dan and I, my husband is Dan, it really helped us for years. We have that on the fridge and we would see it all the time. And a message from me is don't give up. There is help out there, and I'm one of them.
Okay. So the guides have some questions.
Okay.
They're saying, all right, you accepted help at some point, but there's guilt. How about someone who won't accept help because they have that guilt? Because that's common. What is your suggestion for that to let go of that guilt?
My mother always said I was born guilty, so I have had a lifetime of guilt to,
Oh,
I'm 64 years young right now, and it was only just a couple years ago that I started really letting go of guilt. So it's work, and I liked what you said, and I think other people said that this morning is find your modality. Um, just find something. There's so much free stuff on YouTube, right? Find a modality, find somebody who can inspire you. And there are, if you can just Google letting go of guilt, you might find something that resonates with you. That's free, that you can do at your own time, right? And if the caregiver has the means to seek some, they find a modality, they want to work with somebody, then also do some searches. Now that we have everything at our fingertips, we can quickly search relief for caregivers, or just find something that resonates. So I think I'm going off tangent a little bit. So
No. This is good. This is good. This is important. Uh, I, it is important. So, but thank you. If you have more information about that before I move on, I think, because the road can be long.
it can be very long. And, I obviously I care about growing my business, but I care so much about reaching out and letting people know that they can reach out to me, for instance, if I resonate with anybody. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm already talking about the freebie at the end, but on my website, you can find, if you sign up, you get a free email every day for 7 days. And it gives you quick 3 to 5 minute tips on how to it deals with stress. It deals with finding time. The 3x3 is in there, by the way. And every day there's an affirmation that if it resonates, you can just stick it on your mirror and look at it. So again, I've gotten a little off tangent, but
No, that's beautiful. That's what we want. I mean, it's perfect. I do see someone has their hand up. So if it's because we do have a panel later on, what I'll do is I'll unmute you if I say it correct, Jerice, but we still have, I don't want to lose Michelle's presentation. So if it's going to take a while, we'll cover it later on today, but let me see how I do this.
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I just wanted to say I'm a caregiver and also been one of Michelle's clients. And to dovetail your question about, well, how does somebody, move past guilt? My experience being one of Michelle's clients is, and when she's doing the body code work, unconscious beliefs such as guilt are part of what gets cleared in her process. So I don't want to be a future spoiler of any place you're going, Michelle, but I just wanted to say that I've experienced things like that clearing in that process.
Okay.
thank you, Therese.
Thank you so much for that. So, and that is, so let's talk about that. I'm just going to bring up the title because title of our, not the title, description, come learn how the release of emotional, physical, and spiritual imbalances can open up a path to purpose, empowerment, and joy. And so let's talk about the modalities now, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So obviously Reiki is my first love and continues to be that way and always because I use it every single day of my life. More than I realize. I realize that I use it so much when I started teaching Reiki. It's like, oh, wait a minute, I do this and I do that. So on top of the beautiful spiritual energy healing of Reiki, I mentioned that I discovered emotion body code. And I say both of them because we start learning the emotion code, which deals only with emotional baggage, trapped emotions that we trap throughout our lives. And then once we get certified in the emotion code, then we can go on to the body code, which is, it deals with so many issues. It can go into misalignments, glands, bones, tissue. We can go into pathogens and energy, which includes the emotions, belief system, toxins. It's just an amazing modality. I mentioned before it was founded by Dr. Bradley Nelson, who was a chiropractor for a couple of decades at least. He also knew he also had a job, I think, as a computer programmer or software engineer. And so he really wanted to figure out a way to, he knew there was a way to talk to the brain somehow. And so he developed this modality, and of course, with spiritual guidance as well, created this amazing, these codes. So it's it's a less well-known energy modality, and it finds and releases energy blockages and imbalances of all kinds. And the belief is that the subconscious is highly intelligent. So we're talking to the subconscious that quickly identifies imbalances and knows exactly what the body needs. And the emotional and physical imbalances are hidden, and they're the hidden underlying causes of a lot of our disease and dysfunction. And it drains your energy, promotes illness, it prevents the body from healing. So the way it works is I do all my sessions remotely except for my husband and my two kitties. We can do that in person. It's just like any energy healing. You tap into the other person's energy field, and through muscle testing or pendulum, it's kinesiology, if I said that right. I'm talking to the subconscious of the other person, and I ask questions. Let's say that your right shoulder is really hurting, and that's her focus for the day. Then I start asking, what's the biggest imbalance associated with this right shoulder? And it just goes into all the imbalances that are behind that, and it goes deeper and deeper. There could be emotions, there could be inherited emotions, absorbed. It could be anything. Dr. Nelson always says anything can cause anything. And then once we've gone as far as we can go with that particular imbalance, then I start releasing the imbalances. And the woo-woo part of this is, but I'm in good company here, is we all have this governing meridian that starts under the nose all the way down to the base of the spine. So we use part of the governing meridian and our magnetic field to just release the imbalances. So let's say I'm releasing grief, right, from you, grief from whatever age, whatever situation. We can pinpoint all that using muscle testing, and I just release one by one. And it wasn't until I got all this validation from people, starting with my husband, that it was like, this stuff really works. He was my very first guinea pig when I was starting to learn emotion code, and he just happened to have bursitis, a really bad case of bursitis of the right knee, just all of a sudden. And he was about to drive 7,000 miles, the next day, or 2,000. He was going to Colorado from Maryland. And so I tried a body code session on him, and it went from a 7 to a 3. And a 7 for him is more like a 9 for us. And then the next day was gone. So it was like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm learning this. And now 200 plus sessions later, I love to make it part of my modality. Reiki and body code just are beautiful complements of each other. Does that explain how the modality works?
It does for body code. I do have a question, but I'm trying to think. I think I will if we could talk about emotion code next. And then I'll have a question, because I'm not sure if my question, I think my question might relate to both modalities, but here's the key points I'm getting. Sometimes people find a quicker way than someone else. And if it's a quick way and it works, and when it works for it, go for it. If what you're doing releases stuff, at least we know you can get to a certain level with it, which will grow over time. But I think it's very important. The other thing I'd like to say, like, we have been, and I have a whole bunch of notes from when we talked before. So I don't want to mix what I have today with what I had before, because I don't want to say like, oh, you said this and you never said that today. But what I'm looking at is in terms of abundance, right? Like our theme, you are doing things that allow more abundance to flow. So if we could have a couple examples of that, either now or as we go into emotion code, just to put the emphasis on it. I think it might help. And but you're doing great. You're doing great. I would just like to, so I'm going to tell you, yeah, let's go to emotion code. So go ahead,
Okay.
please.
I was going to go there anyway because they're so tied together. Emotion code, body code. Until I was certified with the body code, I could only practice emotion code. And the biggest difference is we are looking at only at emotions that have been trapped throughout our lifetime. Age 3, maybe we saw our mommy leave the room and there was a trapped emotion of abandonment, right? Not a huge thing, but it still got trapped, and it's an energy that's keeping everything else from really flowing fully. And it's body code, emotion code are all about balance, right? We're balancing our state of balance, parasympathetic, sympathetic, in a state of balance. That's where we flourish and we thrive. But back to the emotion code, it can be a physical issue, it can be an emotional issue, it can be why am I blocked from exercising? Why do I have such resistance to working out every day? Why, et cetera, et cetera. And we only look at all the emotions that have something to do with that focus. And it makes a huge difference, right? And then there could be some chronic conditions where just releasing emotions is not quite enough. So there's the body code. So the body code has the emotions within its menu. I mean, I'm literally looking at an app or on the web, a menu of 6 different systems,
Yep.
like misalignment, energy, and all that. So emotion code is within the body code.
Okay. I think,
Um,
yes. No,
no, go ahead.
I was just, when you said, at 3 years old, someone leaves a room, like you could see this morning when Sandra, I was like, couldn't see Sandra. I'm like, where's Sandra? Where's Sandra? And I did that a couple of weeks ago in a, I was speaking with someone at a summit, and all of a sudden they gave me the floor, but I couldn't see them anymore. And I'm like, where did they go? It's not a big deal, but there's a trigger there.
Mhm.
So you do use both as needed, one or the other, but people can focus on, I want my emotions addressed or something physical, or so we'll talk a little bit more about that. I do remember we spoke about because I wanted to ask you about ancestral healing with these modalities. Can you uh go into that a little bit for our listeners?
Sure. So it's mostly in the energy system. If we find a trapped emotion of overwhelm, for instance, which is a very common one, and the muscle testing or pendulum, whatever people use, shows that it's not your own. You can have prenatal, preconception, inherited, your own common trapped emotion, absorbed and shared. So there's 6 different types of emotions that we can trap in our body. But the inherited, if it's an inherited overwhelm, then through our connection, of the energy field and talking to the subconscious, we can actually pinpoint how many generations the emotion was, where it came from. And if the subconscious is not satisfied with that, we need to dig deeper. Then we can start asking more questions like, did it have to do with, if it's 500 years ago, did it have to do with some conflict, some war, some this or that? Most of the time it's enough to just know how many generations. And we can also figure out whether if the client has kids, if the kids inherited. And then when all that is released, it's released for all generations, past and future,
So
and grandkids.
Yeah, so it's changing everybody's life, which is a form of abundance. More that beautiful energy could flow in, because a lot of times the child will act out what the parent has, for example.
Mhm.
So if you're addressing it in a parent, it releases the child too.
Yeah, it does. I mean, to me, the biggest abundance of all these beautiful modalities in my life is freedom. The abundance of freedom is it's just priceless. Um, and of course, abundance can mean so many different things, as you've all addressed already this morning. But the shifts that happen um, open up possibilities that people may not even think are possible. Possibilities possible. It's a good thing I'm not writing this down. But it just opens up a world that maybe they didn't even know was available. Um,
Yes.
that's abundance.
Yes. As I'm doing this, I'm going to put your link, but we should start talking about, I'm going to put your link in the chat. We should speak about your offers. And you already mentioned the free offer.
Yeah, I got it. You were asking
Yep.
about, what things can help caregivers. The biggest thing, and I'm going back just a tiny bit, is understanding that caregivers don't have time. They're in overwhelm. So big newsletters, big inspirational things, half-hour meditations, even 20-minute meditations can be too much. They just need little bits of relief on a consistent basis.
Okay. Do you want to speak to first your offer, body code, and then emotion code?
Sure. So I'm offering up to 2 sessions of either emotion code or body code. And I say up to, um, if you want to choose one, if you want to try one, let's say you start with emotion code, you want to try one, it's 40% off, up to 2 of them. And try one, see if you like it. Try the other one. I mean, 40% off is anyway. I think a lot of people can do that. And so I decided, I think I just decided yesterday, I was just going to do body code, but Al pointed out that maybe people just want to have emotion code only. Just try that out, just with the emotions. So I added the link. The link is not on my website. My website only shows body code, but it's a link to my scheduler, and you can get 40% off up to 2. And I think just redeemable within within the month, 30 days, something like that. I think
Yes.
there's a
Yep.
date on it.
September 23rd. But they
Mhm.
need to use the code
They
abundance.
use the code abundance, capital
Yeah.
letters. I figured that would be perfect for the session.
Yeah. Is is there anything else you want to say? Anything you want to add?
Um, so you talked in your presentation about the allowing.
Mm,
Um, I do want to say that when you release all these imbalances, whether they're physical, emotional, mental, we can go into the mental, like no will to, I have no will to do this, or I have will to do that from whatever situation in your life. We can release that. Um, allowing of that is bigger than anyone can imagine for ourselves. And they can actually experience what the universe can offer, has for them, um, and what abundance can do for them. Um, another thing I would like the viewers to know, I've mentioned this already, to just never give up. There is help out there. Just just take one step. And if we're not at the point where we can even think of spiritual growth because we're so entrenched in our caregiving role, then just start with the physical. Just start releasing, find a modality that releases blockages and that allows space for more freedom and more growth and more shifts, and things will open up. I mean, when I started my Reiki journey, I couldn't think straight. I had my mother, my husband at the same time with, crises and it just, a modality can really transform your life.
Okay. And so that is a key point. The key point, because people will ask me, and you just mentioned, they're like, Al, I'm a mom right now and I feel guilty, or I cannot work, I'm not doing my spiritual stuff. And I said, well, you're doing what you need to do. You're being a mom, and that's very important. But you're saying also, maybe it doesn't take that long to do something like body code. Doesn't take that much away, and give yourself that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the beauties of our remote world now is that, well, even without the Zoom, I have a few clients who don't have time either to meet on the phone or on Zoom. They just don't have time for a session. So I do it remotely completely. I connect to their energy field. I tell them when I start. They don't have to be in any kind of meditative state. They can just be, going on about their day. And I go ahead and do a body code session or emotion code session, but I usually do body code. And then I send them a detailed email with everything that has been released, everything that's been found, and then offer ongoing support. So they don't even have to take the time out of the day to get a body code session or Reiki. As you know, Al, I found out this morning that you're a Reiki master as well. You can actually schedule Reiki sessions, for when somebody's sleeping,
Yeah.
when they're nice and relaxed. That has worked wonders also. So you don't have to have the time. And just a quick other note, I know we're almost done, but when I was teaching my Reiki courses, I realized that, we do promote self Reiki. I do self body code also, not enough, but I do. It doesn't have to be a sit down 20-minute, 30-minute self Reiki, all the positions. It can be a quick 3-minute before you go to sleep. It can be a quick 3 to 5 minutes when you wake up in the morning. You're still in bed, you're laying down, you're comfortable, hopefully, and just give yourself some Reiki. I love to just place a hand on the heart, place a hand either in the sacral chakra below the rib cage, or in the solar plexus or the sacral, and just lay there for a lot. That's giving yourself Reiki. It does not have to take long.
It's giving yourself love, right? Allowing love to come in. And yeah, that's a good reminder for people. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Michele, for everything. I think you have some fans in the chat, and like I said, I saw hearts go by. I'm going to stop the recording, but thank you very much for today.